Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be here today with Rebecca from 3radical. They are superstars because they're our sponsors, headline sponsors for the Marketing and Customer Loyalty Day at Gamification Europe, and also they've been involved for all 4 iterations of Gamification Europe, which is just great. These conferences do not happen without sponsors like 3radical. Let's start by finding out a bit more about Rebecca. So what's your role at 3radical? What sort of things are you working on? And tell us a bit about what 3radical does, please.
Yeah, hi Pete, good to meet you. Rebecca Trivella, I'm the UK Sales Director for 3radical. So for people who don't know 3radical, we're a tech company. So we produce and have produced for the last 9 years a platform that enables organisations to do gamification. That is kind of one-off bits of gamification, whether it's a campaign-based piece or gamification where it's running all the time, that kind of like always on type of gamification. So organizations like ZZ's would use us for both of those things for the campaigns. It can be to engage with an audience, typical customer audience, like those that consume pizzas at ZZ's. We can be used for employee engagement, so DBS Bank, who are the biggest bank, I think, in Singapore, uses for employee engagement to make sure employees are truly digesting the important things that happen in a bank, like understanding cybersecurity, things that sometimes we might say that we've listened to when we're onboarded but haven't quite really engaged with. So yeah, I mean, really varied use of the platform around the world, but all about audience engagement, and then really importantly about the data that you can earn about your audience whilst you engage with them, which I think is increasingly coming to the fore, really, Pete.
That's very true. In fact, we had a great talk at last year's conference from one of your colleagues about the cybersecurity case study from Singapore. Great. So yeah. I recommend people check that out. That's cool.
It's a really interesting case study, actually. Yeah.
What are you hoping to achieve from your involvement in Gamification Europe this year?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be really different because it's online, of course, but it's always really interesting to meet other people. And I think there's a two-pronged thing. You have a conversation where you're with someone who's really like-minded, and then that's affirming in terms of what you're trying to do and as an organisation and the conversations we're having. It's also equally interesting to have more challenging conversations with people who are maybe not quite sure about how gamification can be used, and yeah, have some of those challenging conversations. And of course, I'm really looking forward to just listening to some of the other talks as well as meeting other people.
Well, seeing as how you've mentioned that, what sort of talks have you spotted that you're looking forward to listening?
In my last role, I did a lot of work with pharmaceutical organisations, and that was a lot about bringing drugs out to market, bringing them out quicker, shortening the clinical trials process. But there's something in there also about how you help individuals to actually finish medication, and how you do research around the impacts of medication. So I was really interested in the arthritis. Is it called arthritis memes business or something?
It is indeed.
Ben Wilkins, I think.
Yeah.
I watched the video that you'd done with him. Thought that is interesting. I think gamification's been still in lots of people really pigeonhole it and think about it in terms of gaming. And there are so many, as you know far more than me, Pete, so many different applications. And I think that there is definitely a really relevant application in terms of changing behaviour from a sort of wellness and a medical perspective, getting people to finish the medication that they're on. So you really know, has it worked or has it not worked? If it was a 7-day course and you did 3, then that's not a reflection on the drug and the drug company. I think the arthritis one is about getting people to do exercise.
It's a great little talk because it's the target demographic is basically the over 60s, and badges don't really work on them. That's what they found. So they had to find a different way to motivate them. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Gems to open treasure boxes and things. Yeah. No. So I think looking at those different uses is really thought provoking and something that I personally find really interesting as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I think there's Is it Jan Bidner? Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that pronunciation?
it is.
And that's, I think, in the same track that we're in, the marketing and the customer loyalty track. And I think, but I can't completely remember, that's about trying to get people to visit a certain part of Sweden, or maybe I don't remember exactly.
It's sort of like the hinterlands.
Yeah.
It's called How Can a Digital Moose Improve the User Experience for Tourists?
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the fact we've got a digital moose as the topic of a talk. It's very true.
I don't know if you can see my moose. So anyone who watches this, it's not real. And he's called Malcolm.
You've named it.
Complete digression. Yeah, so we've worked with Visit Scotland, and there's interest in what we're doing from Visit England, and I can't remember someone else at the moment. And I think that whole sort of visitor behaviour, learning more about individuals and why they might come to England or Scotland or the hinterlands of Sweden, because people are driven, as we know, by completely different things. And how do you standard marketing thing, how do you learn enough about people so that you can talk to them in the right tone of voice about the things that will be interesting? Do they have children? Are they all adrenaline adventure junkies, or is it about the historic parts, or maybe in Sweden foraging in the woodlands? So it's so varied, and you have to really individualize that, and so you really need to know about them, which means you need that data asset, doesn't it, ultimately, which is very much what 3radical about on the Voco platform. It's about earning that data so you can do a better job of that individualization.
Brilliant. Yeah, using the data to customize the journey and really put the right message in front of people.
Yeah.
What a good use of your platform. Well said.
That's what happens when you're born out of a data company, campaign management company. Then that ultimately that's fundamental to what we've always been trying to do, but it's really coming to the fore now, particularly with all the changes in legislation and Amazon's suit and what have you. The world's changing, isn't it, around the availability of data, how you can use that data. iOS 14 being the latest that's going to kind of change and protect us in that, and making the collection of data, earning data, zero-party data, even more important.
That is very true. Maybe we should have a panel session around this sort of thing at some point. It's a good idea. I've got one question I meant to ask earlier, and that was about our theme, which this year is disruption, because of all the disruption around us. And I was wondering if that resonated as a theme for 3radical.
Yeah, and as you know, that's kind of part of the headline of our talk. Yeah, very, very much so. I think you've got a couple of things happening. You've got the pandemic, which has, I would struggle to think there are lives that haven't been affected. I mean, maybe there are a few, but most of us have been affected in a myriad of ways, and all very different. And at the same time, then you've got the use of data, how it's collected, how it's used, become increasingly scrutinized. As I say, in the States, there's the kind of I don't know whether it's a lawsuit, but certainly the Department of Justice attacking Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Google, and then we've got the European Commission placing the case here for Amazon. As I said, you've got iOS 14 coming out, which is about changing that. So there's a lot of focus on our privacy, on the ethical use of data. So I think you've got two really, really big elements of disruption going on in the market, and that will change. That will change the way that we behave as consumers. It will change. It's important, what do you know about me, and is that still true today? People's disposable income will have changed. Do they go out? I don't really have to buy suits and shirts anymore. You can see I haven't dressed up for the occasion. Yeah, my shopping habits have definitely changed, because I'm not in London a couple of days a week and wearing a suit. I'm more inclined to want to buy pajamas, to be honest, or comfortable clothing. So all of that's changed. So there really is disruption, and we do need to respond to that in all elements of our business, and whether that's as a retailer, whether that's as a university. All your students might be largely online, and how do you make that interesting and engaging for them and valuable? If you're still going to charge them their fees, are they really going to learn as much being taught online particularly if a lot of that is recorded.
So much disruption happening. Okay, yeah, and nice mention of Will's talk, which is definitely around how I like the fact that you've got a platform that will help you gather data and rebuild your knowledge about your customers fast, because everything's different. Their incomes have changed, their spending patterns have changed, where they are, where they visit, all of that. Absolutely right. All disrupted. So we need to learn again using and from a data point of view, which is perfect.
Yeah, and not. I think historically there's been a lot of inference in the data. You buy vegan pizza, therefore you must be vegan. But we all know and have that isn't necessarily the case. You might have bought it for somebody else. Just because I bought, I don't know, a Barbie at the weekend, I'm not inclined to keep buying Barbies. It was a present for somebody. So we as marketeers, we know those truths, and I think sometimes we fall into the trap of doing what we feel frustrated at from when we're actually on the receiving end of that as a consumer. So don't infer, actually know, and it's really, with gamification techniques, it's really easy if you get it right to go in and validate that. I think that you're female. I think that you're between 40 and 50 age bracket, let's say. Let me ask rather than just assume that because you're buying comfortable shoes. I mean, not talking about anyone in particular. Yeah.
This is brilliant. I feel like we could chat all day about this because, the bit I hate most about Christmas is the fact that it throws out all the algorithms in like Amazon or whatever in terms of what I've been buying for people. And the rest of the year I get random stuff thrown at me.
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
Thank you so much for your time today on this interview. It's been brilliant, Rebecca. I look forward to seeing you at the conference and seeing your thoughts and feedback on the talks that we have. Thank you again.
Glad to be part of it again. Thank you, Pete.